If somebody were to ask me, Max, do you love yourself? The answer would be, hell yeah. I think I'm pretty cool. I got some niche hobbies. I'm funny. I'm interesting. And dare I say, I'm pretty good looking. Yeah, I love myself. Right? Towards the end of 2025, I was going through a very turbulent time in my life. It felt like everything around me was crumbling. I was in a transition period with my career, and I had this friendship end. And this was a friendship that meant a lot to me. And that friendship breakup really took a mental toll on me and made me lose my sense of self. Or should I say almost? I almost lost my sense of self. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it, but I will tell you enough for all of this to make sense to you. So when this friendship was ending, there was this very negative perception of me, and I had a very, very hard time dealing with that. I don't do well. I don't do well with people not liking me. As people pleasing as that sounds, I know we're all human. We all go through things and we all perceive other people differently, but I really struggled with knowing that someone was just actively disliking me. And it made me so uncomfortable to know that I was being very misunderstood in the situation, and I was being held under this negative light that it almost felt like I wasn't allowed to get out from under it. And that's not to say I didn't do anything that could have warranted this reaction. There were faults on both sides, but I also felt like I didn't deserve to be dictated as that kind of person in the friendship. I couldn't come to terms with it. I would analyze and overanalyze, and I would try to validate myself. You know, when you have your moments where you're like thinking about something that's happened to you, and then there's a part of you inside that's trying to calm you down. I was trying to do that to myself. I was trying to validate my own feelings and remind myself that it's okay, everything's going to be okay. This is just a tough time in my life right now. But whenever I would try to do that, I would never really believe in myself, right? I wouldn't believe my own self-validation. It all felt like a bunch of flowery words that held no weight. So because I couldn't validate myself and I couldn't believe in what I was telling myself, I would turn to other people. And I feel like, God bless my husband, David, but he truly took the brunt of it for me, where he essentially became my therapist. And it almost felt like 4 or 5 times in a day, I would tell him that I needed to talk. Because how I process things when I go through tough situations is that I like to talk about it. I'm a yapper. I need to say it out loud to somebody to process it. I would make cuento about the same situations over and over again, the same conversations that I had to go through over and over again, and he would have to validate me about the same things over and over again. And it got to a point where even I wasn't believing David when he would validate me, so then who would I turn to? I would turn to my best friend. And then it would be the same pattern all over again of the same things coming up, the same validations, and ultimately, I believed in nothing. I couldn't accept anything. I couldn't even be talked up. I couldn't be calmed down. I would just let that dark cloud of like pain and misery over this situation hover over me. And nothing could make me feel better anymore. Nothing could satisfy me and my need for validation. So by the end of it, I felt so drained. I felt like my soul was sucked out of me, and I felt like I didn't have my spark anymore. In fact, I was actually feeling this way for a really long time already, but this was really the situation that basically set the entire house on fire, right? I had been feeling so withered for a long time, and I just thought that it was because in those months where I was already feeling so withered and that I had lost my spark, it was because I wasn't getting my haircuts regularly anymore. I wasn't getting my nails done anymore. I wasn't doing all the beauty treatments that I used to do regularly. In fact, I let it go. And I never really took care of myself in a physical way. And I genuinely believe that was the reason why I had lost my spark. It's because I didn't really feel like I was in my physical beauty anymore. I didn't really feel physically beautiful anymore. All the while that I was trying to figure that aspect out, I was still turning to my friends and trying to fish for validation. But the thing is, the more I seek validation from other people, the more I needed it. It was like it was never ever enough. I was getting greedy, and but when it came to a point where I couldn't even validate myself, David couldn't validate me, my friends couldn't validate me, and I still needed more validation. That was when I realized that I was deep inside a very destructive pattern in my life. And that was at one, if it isn't already clear, I needed external validation like I needed air. And I would pester people about it nonstop until I got my fill for the day. And second, which is the biggest bomb drop that I had experienced in a really long time, is that I self-abandoned. When it came to taking accountability in the areas that I needed to be accountable for, I was not kind to myself at all through it. In fact, I felt like I needed to be punished for letting all of this happen in the first place. Never mind the fact that I was clearly being misunderstood. Never mind the fact that I knew of my own boundaries, I knew my own truth, and I had great clarity and awareness on the situation. I still felt like I needed to punish myself because none of this should have happened in the first place. And there was this clear image in my head that made me realize how horrible I was being to myself. And it was that, and I'm gonna need you guys to take a step back and try and imagine this with me, okay? So we are in this whole situation, right? On one side is who was once my friend, who is also clearly very, very angry with me and is in a point in their life where they dislike me. And on the other side is a version of me that is young and naive and still has so much to learn, and is the version of me that has to experience everything about this life that I am in, right? But next to that version of me is a second version of me. I guess we can dub her my higher self, but it's an older, more mature version of me. Think of it as the ate figure, right? The big sister version of me for myself, for that smaller, more naive, younger version of me that has a lot more in life to go through. So when this friend on this other side starts to berate me, and get angry with me and tell me off and tell me they don't like me and they hate me for this and they hate me for that. Instead of this ate version of me, the big sister version of me, holding my hand and supporting me through it and letting me know that everything's going to be okay and that whatever is said about me isn't necessarily true. All of this hurt and pain that is being thrown my way is all rooted in a misunderstanding of me, in a version of myself that is not who I am. She goes to the other side, to the side of the friend that is getting angry with me, that is berating me and telling me that she doesn't like me, and she starts pointing fingers and yelling at me too. I was telling my friend this, and she literally said, "Girl, that's fucked up." And the thing is, I didn't realize how messed up that whole idea was, that whole imagery, because that is a very true and clear example of what was going on in my mind. I wasn't being there for myself. I was abandoning, quite literally, leaving myself to side with the other person who was just throwing all this negativity, and I was throwing negativity at myself and hating on myself because I realized that was a form of validation, this really fucked up form of validation, where I could show this person that, see, I'm not all bad. I'm not as horrible as you seem to make me out to be, because I would hate on me too. I would not like myself too. Anyway, it was the clearest depiction of self-abandonment. And when I thought of that whole image in my mind, I had a moment where I was like, holy shit, do I self-abandon? Because that is something I never ever thought that I would do until now, until I realized all of this, until this whole situation had brought all of this to light. I realized that I clearly did not love myself enough to hold my hand through the struggle. And I was quicker to go and side with the person that didn't like me because it was much easier for me to hate on myself and to not like myself than to do the hard work of loving myself. That was when I realized that no, I didn't love myself at all. Because when it comes to moments where my values, my morals, my entire being and who I am is being questioned, where did that self love go? I love myself through the superficial things because what? I'm pretty, I'm funny, I have hobbies, I enjoy life from time to time. But where did that all go when I needed myself the most because my character was being questioned? The self love was not there. The self care and the self support was not there. And that's when it hit me. I lost my spark, not because I wasn't doing all these fuck ass beauty. And that's when it hit me. I lost my spark not because I wasn't doing any of these beauty treatments regularly anymore, not because my nails weren't done or my hair wasn't cut perfectly. I lost my spark because I didn't love myself. And I, in fact, maybe even hated myself in a way I didn't even know I did. I lost my spark because I chose to be hard on myself and to punish myself and belittle myself in order to somehow get the validation that I was looking for. And this sounds really, really messed up, and I'm only realizing this right now. I feel like the reason why I felt like self punishment and being hard on myself was validating for me is because if I was coming from a place where I felt like everybody didn't like me or I was not worth it as a human being, you know, I had no worth, I had no value, and I let that whole situation pull me down. I let the way this person felt about me dictate who I truly was. Because if they don't think I'm a good person, if they dislike me, and they think I'm shit, then I must be a horrible person. I must be hard to like. I must actually be a shit person. And if I use all this negativity being thrown at me as a reason to punish myself, then being hard on myself and punishing myself in that way will validate me because that's what I thought other people wanted to see me go through. If they get what they want and they see me suffer, then it'll satisfy them. And if it satisfies them and it validates them, then in turn, somehow that validates me because I'm giving them what they want. I'm letting them see what they've been wanting to see, which was for me to be in pain for what they thought I had done and for how they perceive me. You know what? My friend is right. That is fucked up. That is crazy. In some twisted way, all the self-hate, how hard I've been on myself, how much I've punished myself, was still a way to try and get some kind of validation from other people. Jesus Christ, I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, you know what? It's okay. I'm not saying you guys can relate to this. If you do, then we're in it together. But if you don't relate to it, I'm glad that you don't. This is a very hard thing that I'm coming to understand about myself. I only realized that it was self-abandonment, I only realized it was this bad recently. That was the biggest bomb drop that I had in a really long time, as I had previously said, right? So what did I do that night? When I realized all of this, I understood why David couldn't validate me. I understood why my friends and their validations wouldn't validate me or couldn't validate me. It was because I needed the validation from myself. And I needed to believe myself this time. I needed to say these things from a place of love. Not because I'm just trying to put a band-aid over the pain and make myself feel better momentarily because I didn't like feeling so depressed anymore. I needed to validate myself and believe in myself because it was coming from a place of love. Not to get away from the pain, but just to love on myself, to tell myself that I'm here and that I love myself. So I went into my bedroom, I sat on the bed, I played some meditation frequency music, and I hugged myself. Call it cringe, but to be cringe is to be free. I was hugging myself like this. And I closed my eyes and I started meditating. And at first it was just silence in my head. And then I would self-affirm out loud. And I would tell myself, it's okay, over and over and over again. I didn't need to say a lot of words. I just needed to tell myself it's okay. And then slowly, as I went through this meditation that was now rooted in self love, I started to have these questions come up in my mind that I would typically ask David or my friends to fish for their validation, right? So now I was starting to ask these questions to myself. Do you believe me? Yes, I do. I'll get through this. You'll get through this. I'm not a bad person, am I? No, you're not. And you're not how they choose to perceive you. You are not how they choose to perceive you. Do you love me? I do. I really, really do. And I think when I answered that out loud in that moment, it was the first time I genuinely felt like I loved myself. Not for my physical being, but for who I knew I truly was inside. And I knew that I wasn't a bad person. Grabe yung hagulgul ko that night. Like, I was properly sobbing. And let me tell you, it took so much more than that one session, ha? Like, I had those self-hugging meditation sessions and asking myself those questions and answering those questions so many times. I had them so many times. It was across several nights because I couldn't fix it all in one night, and I would relapse. I would start to feel bad and I would start to self-punish, but now I had gained awareness. Now I knew of my destructive patterns, and now I could catch it when it was about to happen or when I was in the middle of it. And I would remedy that by having these self-love meditations and rooting myself back in my own love for myself. And that really, really, really helped me grow and replenish my love for myself. And you know what? After that first night of this whole self-love meditation thing I did, I felt validated. I felt genuinely, satisfyingly validated. And it didn't come from an external source. It didn't come from David validating me or my friends validating me. It came from me. I felt validated because I finally validated myself from a place of love, and I finally believed in myself and my own words. That night was the beginning of a much stronger relationship that I have with myself now. And again, I still relapse. I still go through the shit, right? But now I actually know what self-love looks like. It's not looking prettier. It's not making people laugh. Self-love, when it truly matters, is staying by my side no matter how hard things get. It's supporting me and fighting for myself when it feels like the world is against me. I'm gonna leave you guys with this quote from a very dear friend of mine. Her name is Violet. When I was making her cuento, this whole situation, like literally everything I told you guys about, she said this: "You're your greatest ally. They can all fuck off, but you're your greatest ally. You cannot lose yourself to yourself." I love you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!